to the strike the count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. It's his way back. Walk the ball. Chris Taylor.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Scott Geirman. Scott, Dodgers win 7-3. It was a disappointing trade deadline day, but nice for the Dodgers to end the day in positive fashion, at least.
Yeah, no, definitely put a cap on that. It's definitely a disappointing day. The big deal didn't get done. One deal got nixed, and here we are, ending the night with a win against a team that they need to beat.
Yeah, so plan for tonight, we're obviously going to talk about this one. The Dodgers beating the A's 7-3 behind Lance Lynn, Kiké Hernández, a couple new guys who did come over in the trade deadline. Some trades ahead of the deadline, I should say, kind of playing hero tonight. So we're going to talk about this game. We're going to talk about Lance Lynn's performance. We're going to talk about player of the game. And of course, we are going to talk a little bit about big picture trade deadline thoughts. But what's the headline for you on this one, Scott? Is it Lance Lynn and kind of the positive performance? Is it maybe a little bit of shakiness we saw from Lynn towards the end of his start? How would you react to this one big picture?
So a lot of what we talked about when the Lance Lynn trade news broke, I believe I might have been talking with Matt, but he pitched exactly to who he is. There's going to be, considerable amount of swing and miss there. He's going to get strikeouts. He's going to miss bats, and he's going to give up homers. So he's at a point in his career right now. He's leaving a lot over the heart of the plate. His velocity is not as high as it's been, but he's still finding a way to get the job done. There are positives tonight. He won 7, allowed 3, and he was able to earn the win. So this does give Mark Prior and the staff, I would say, a really solid sample for them to work from. And that's what I wanted. Facing the Oakland Athletics tonight was not only good for the team, hopefully get some good swings in for the offense, get them kind of rolling. Not everyone did. We'll get to that. But for Lance Lynn, this does give them a good baseline, kind of a soft landing in a night where they did need a win and they needed a good start from Lance Lynn so they know where to go from and how to really set up his future going forward with the Dodgers.
Yeah, look, the 7 innings, 3 earned runs, if you look just strictly at what the ERA equates to there, it's maybe not something that's all that inspiring. But I think this is one of those things where ERA doesn't tell the full story. Yes, it was 3 solo home runs. Yes, it could have been much worse. But I would just say at the end of the day, 7 innings and 3 earned runs should matter more than say 4 innings and 2 earned runs. The fact that he got them 3 more innings, got deeper into the game, and I would say for the most part looked pretty good. It wasn't like smoke and mirrors all the way through. We had a couple doubles with 1 out early in the game that he was able to strand. It's like you said, he got lots of swing and miss, finishes the game with 7 strikeouts, was able to keep the ball in the zone. And I like what you said. I want to get into his pitch mix in a little bit, but I like what you said. This is the beginning for the Dodgers. He hasn't had a lot of time with Mark Prior and the Dodgers, so if they're going to tweak anything, they probably had some minor tweaks, but they haven't been able to implement all of those quite yet. So there's going to be some improvement, I would imagine, on how they navigate that. So I thought Lynn, the headline for me was just to be able to see him go out. Yes, it was the Oakland A's, but guess what? It counts. The Dodgers needed to win this one. Lance Lynn did just enough for them to go out and do that. Again, the Dodgers go on to win 7-3. Let's break down how this one came about, because it was a couple guys with 6.5 ERA, Scott, and there weren't a lot of base runners early on. I think the first 11 base runners of the game end up being retired before that streak ended, and the Dodgers didn't really break through until the 4th inning. I mentioned Lance Lynn gave up a 1-out double in the 3rd, stranded it, gave up a 1-out double in the 4th, stranded it. The Dodgers rally a little bit in the 4th. They load the bases for James Outman. He's facing a 2-2 count, and like the gritty Dodger that he is, Scott takes one off the back for a 1-run RBI hit by pitch. Next batter up is Kiké Hernández. I'm going to be honest, Scott, the beginning of that bat was not necessarily encouraging or inspiring, and yet when it mattered, absolutely lasers a ball to left center field, clears the bases. Dodgers go up 4-0. As much as we want to talk about Lance Lynn, the biggest hit of the game, the biggest moment of the game came from Kiké Hernández roping one into left field. That was 106 miles an hour off the bat for Kiké.
Yeah, no, that at bat was really something, on the 7th pitch of the AB. And just like you said, thinking back to how Kiké was with the Dodgers in his prior stint against righty matchups there, you'd see sliders and it would really, you were waiting for it to kind of miss his bats. And
Yeah.
he's got that slingshot kind of swing that if you leave it there, he's going to hook it. And just like you saw, 105, 106 off the bat, really gets right over the left fielder's head, clears the bag. So that really took me back. That was cool. That's how I immediately asked Matt, how was the stadium in that moment? He said loud.
Yeah.
Not as loud as Joe Kelly though. So, but that for me against righties, they will give him those opportunities. I don't expect them to be, kind of dominate his usage, but what a spot in the game, right? Like he struggled mightily with the Red Sox. Like I have a Red Sox friend who was like begging me, take Kiké, please. And that's fine because he's here, he's back, and it's cool. This is really cool reunion. It doesn't matter who you're playing. Positive results breed positive results. So build on this. It's just good to see Kiké get a swing in a huge spot.
Yeah, and it was interesting. I wasn't maybe as dialed into this as I normally would have been, but a lot of people on Twitter were sort of like, wow, sort of surprised that David Peralta wasn't the pinch hitter there, that they didn't go to a lefty to hit against a righty. They leave Kiké in, and it ends up working out well for them. Again, the Dodgers go up 4-0. And that's when Lance Lynn starts kind of chipping away, giving it back a little bit. He enters the sixth, having a shutout, gives up a home run, 364 feet. I mean, we need to fix that short wall over there for our guy Lance Lynn in left field. It gets about 3 rows deep over the short wall right around the pole to cut it to 4-1. They add 2 more homers in the 7th. Those 2 were not cheapies, both over 400 feet to Rooker and Diaz, making it 4-3 by the time Lance Lynn exits this game. Thankfully, his new teammates had his back. Mookie Betts home run to left center to make it 5-3, and then James Outman had the RBI hit by pitch early in the game, gets an RBI walk as well, make it 6-3. Freddie Freeman adds an RBI single in the bottom of the 8th to make it 7-3. Brusdar Graterol makes us sweat a little bit there in the end, Scott, but at the end of the day, the Dodgers win this one 7-3. It gets dicey, 4-3 in the 7th, a little bit dicey, but Mookie Betts didn't make that last long, gave him a little breathing room. We've danced around it a little bit, but let's dive in a little bit on Lance Lynn and his performance overall. The box score for him, 7 innings, 5 hits, 1 walk, 3 earned runs, 7 strikeouts. So you look at a lot of that. He's given up less than a base runner an inning. He's striking out a batter an inning. Again, 3 earned runs, not perfect, but not terrible. Nothing that any Dodger fan should be complaining about given the state of our rotation. But it is the 3 home runs. That's kind of what is most concerning for Lance Lynn. If you want to dive into some of the metrics a little bit more, the swing and miss type stuff, I think is where there's some encouraging stuff with Lynn. 16 whiffs on 45 swings. That's a whiff rate of 36%. That was the part to me that was impressive. He threw 6 different pitches tonight, all of them at least 3 times. We'll get into the pitch mix a little bit, but we knew that was the scouting report on Lance Lynn, Scott, was that he was going to get swing and miss. The strikeout numbers we know the best in his career. And that's what we saw tonight. And there's something powerful about being able to get swing and miss. It's why he's able to strand runners at second base in both the 3rd and the 4th, because he's not allowing the ball to be put in play. And by the way, when it was, he got some better defense behind him than he saw in Chicago. So that doesn't hurt either. But how would you grade overall Lance Lynn's performance? Yes, it was the A's, but Lance Lynn, what you saw from him, give me your grade.
I really want to say about a B minus.
Okay.
I know it's a great start.
Feels low.
And that's fine because it's against the Oakland Athletics. He's pitching to the scouting report of who he is. But a lot of those times, pitching in those spots, I really think that against a better lineup, this could have gotten, I don't know about ugly, but he could have given up a 5, a 6 spot. So I'm okay with it, but it wasn't spectacular. He got the swing and miss. His fastball usage was unbelievable. It dominated this start. I think 64 fastballs today, which is just unheard of. So that's great. I think that's exactly, Dodgers love that. I think they like his, his fastball metrics, and that'll continue to play. But I'm gonna give him a B minus. Right, I'm gonna stay right there. Let's build. Let's see on the next one, which I'm not sure where he lines up, but I'm gonna give him a solid B minus, and I'm gonna keep it right there because I do think that there were different spots where I think it could have gotten a little bit messy for him.
Yeah, the hard hit number is not exactly encouraging for Lynn. Obviously, the 3 home runs. I, I'm grading on a curve, and the Dodgers just came out of literally the worst ERA in franchise history for starting pitchers over the course of a month. And he's what did they say? The 10th time all season a Dodgers starter has gone 7 innings. Clayton Kershaw has 6 of the
6.
10. So I think there's value in length. He gave them that. I think there's value in just sort of giving the team a little bit of a boost. I'm not going to make excuses for the guy. I don't know if he changes the approach up 4-0 in the 6th and 7th and is just pumping the zone. That was kind of his MO. So I don't think he really changed approaches. But you mentioned the pitch mix, and I'll dive in a little bit. I saw this on Twitter. Not that this is an original thought, but coming into the game, he threw his 4-seam fastball 41% of the time. Tonight, he threw it almost 70%, 69% on the 4-seam fastball. The sinker, he usually threw 13%. That was down around 3%. But the big one was the cutter. He was throwing his cutter 27% of the time. He threw it just 4% tonight. The last one that was a big change, the curveball, 7% normally, 14% tonight. The changeup decreased a little bit. So to recap that, the 4-seam fastball jumps almost 30% in usage tonight. The curveball doubles from 7 to 14. And the cutter and the sinker, the 2 pitches that the Dodgers, I'm not going to say scrapped, but 10% less, 23% less on those 2 pitches. So again, I think the Dodgers are going to tweak this as they go. I think first of all, kudos to Lance Lynn for being open to this, apparently, because you don't change your pitch mix that dramatically without having some sort of humility to say, hey, let's try something new, which I appreciate. This is going to be dialed. Maybe it's 60% fastballs and not 70%. Maybe it is more curveballs. The sweeper that he was throwing was nasty. He had a changeup early on that was absolutely disgusting. So that's the part to me that's encouraging. He's willing to tweak some things. The Dodgers have some ideas, and the results as far as swing and miss goes, there needs to be some refinement maybe, but I like that he threw strikes, and I like that he was able to continue getting almost 40% whiffs.
Yeah, no, I like a lot of what you said there. His curveball metrics have been solid. He hasn't thrown it a lot, but I'm sure that comes from just, hitters not seeing it. So that might be why it, plays up to when you take a look at it, his slug and stuff like that. So I'm sure they'll work that in. That sweeper was nasty. But I think that they really wanted to grade him on his fastball. I think they wanted to see what he has there. His cutter got hammered, quite a few times. So, they'll work with that. He won't be able to live with, 70% fastballs. That's not where he is. So this was kind of an outlier thing, but it was fun to see him attack the zone. It was nice to see him, keep free runners off the bags. I know it happened, a little bit there, but he was able to work around it. But against better teams, that won't happen. So let's build from this. So let's take it for what it is. And this is the, Dodgers starting pitcher acquisition, providing them with depth, providing them with a chance to win a ball game. And it's what they needed because it was a tough day, reading a lot of fans, reading a lot of people outraged about it. A lot of rumors didn't happen, but prices were so high. We'll get into that. I really want to talk about it and kind of try to put that out a little bit or kind of hush it because prices were so high for these players. And I myself was just, disappointed that they weren't able to swing a deal, but they tried to make one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting looking at that pitch mix for one last thing. So he ends up going out there and throw in, 64 fastballs, as we said, 4-seamers. Yeah. He gets 32 swings, and 12 of his 16 whiffs came on that pitch. So that was one of the surprising things to me is normally it feels like you pound the zone with your fastball and you're getting whiffs with breaking stuff. He was getting his whiffs with the fastball. That said, 2 of the 3 home runs were off the fastball, and interestingly enough, he only threw 4 cutters all night. One of them was taken deep for a home run. So that might be a pitch that you just literally never see from Lance Lynn again. And that could be the difference. Again, I would just stress to Dodger fans, as the people that are poo-pooing on Lance Lynn tonight, and that's not you, Scott, a B- I think is a reasonable thing. I'd probably have it at a B+. But the people that want to crap on Lance Lynn tonight, I don't know what you want. You want to complain about all the Dodgers starting pitching and what we've seen for the last 45 days. Guys who are going 3 2/3 and giving up 7 earned runs. And you have a guy who comes in and does limit the damage and does get out of jams where he has a runner on second with 1 out and does give up 3 home runs, sure, but gets at the end of the day 21 outs for the ball club and gives up 3 runs. And yes, you could make excuses. Oh, the A's, yes, the contact, all this stuff. Why can't you just be happy for a night? Why can't you just be happy that the starting pitcher the Dodgers did go out and get actually pitched pretty well tonight, got swing and miss, was better than basically every starter we've seen since Kershaw has been injured for the Dodgers. And instead, some people want to be negative and they want to crap all over this. Like, I don't know why as a society, it feels like sometimes we need to find reasons to be mad about things we shouldn't be mad. The Dodgers won. Lance Lynn went 7 innings and gave up 3 earned runs. Just be happy. You don't have to say, oh, well, the A's. Oh, well, how many hard hits? Oh, well, just be happy. Be happy. The Dodgers won. The starting pitcher was better than it's been for a month. Be happy, people. I don't get it.
Jeff, buddy, I'm proud of you for that.
I'm getting fired up. I don't.
That was good stuff. That was good stuff. No, I totally get it. These are the guys that they're going to be running out there.
Yeah.
You need Lance Lynn to be good. Imagine if this outing for him went south against essentially a AAA lineup with Brent Rooker hanging on for dear life right in the heart of it.
Yeah.
So if it went bad, then it'd be disastrous. But he went out and did exactly what he needed to do. And where he made the mistakes, it's what he's been doing all year, leaving stuff over in the heart of the zone. And he was able to get him outs. It didn't continue to snowball. A couple solo home runs and he kept it pushing. So put him in a spot to win. When the Dodgers were going well, we talked about this. We had a live where it was like, I kept repeating it. This is the worst pitching staff I had seen in, 10 years. I haven't been couldn't rely on any of them. And when the team's going good, it's when the starting pitching is limiting the damage. And then the offense can, just scrape across a few runs. And then it's like, you're not even worried about it. 3 runs, 4 runs, no problem. Like if they're able to limit that, they're able to put them in those spots. We're talking about a completely different thing. We're not worried about that. So we'll need Lance Lynn. We'll need him to provide innings length. And man, I'm fired up. I like that. I mean, I'm co-signing every single thing you said. So people need to be enjoy this. And I'm happy. I'm happy with where they're at. This is the deadline. I know was, uninspiring, but this is one of their acquisitions going out, having a plus outing. Now they can go and dissect it and work from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I said 6 innings, 4 earned for Lance Lynn, and I'd be happy every single time out because, again, if he had done that today, the Dodgers would have gone on and won and be 7-4 instead of 7-3. Instead, he goes 7 innings, 3 earned runs. So that's an improvement over 6 innings and 4 earned runs. So shout out to the Dodgers. Shout out to Lance Lynn for that. Let's do some player of the game talk, and then we'll get to some trade deadline stuff. Before we do, let's look at the box score real quick and recap, people. A lot of conversation around Lynn. Obviously, again, 7 innings, 6 base runners, 3 earned, and 7 strikeouts for Lance Lynn. Mookie Betts, 2 for 5 with a home run. Freddie Freeman, 4 for 5 with a double and a stolen base as well. James Outman, 2 RBIs with 2 walks and a hit by pitch. Chris Taylor, 0 for 0 with 4 walks. How about that from CT3, trying to get that OBP above 300. And then Kiké Hernández, 1 for 4, but has the biggest hit of the game. So, Scott, give me your player of the game for the Dodgers tonight, and then we'll fill out the podium as we go. Are you going Freddie Freeman, 4 hits? You going Mookie, 2 for 4 with the home run? Kiké, big hit and the catch? Or, of course, Lance Lynn, 7 innings, 3 earned is an option out there.
Go Freddie. I'm going to go Freddie. Reestablish that. I could have easily gone Lance Lynn, but we talked about him enough. We'll go his next one against a big opponent. We'll, if he has another, tosses a gem, he'll be the player of the game. But I'm going to go Freddie, and good to see him go 4 for 5, kind of a ho-hum thing. He just looked like, man amongst boys out there. They weren't going to get him out. Seeing his splits there, lefty, righty, and that it's just nearly impossible to find a weakness in him. It's just special. I just love watching him hit. It's a joy. And there's not a time where he's at the plate where I want to look away because he's fun, man. He's good stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going Lance Lynn. I just think what he gave the Dodgers was a boost. I think it probably helps them in the clubhouse as well to feel like they've got a guy. And look, Freddie Freeman had the best looking box score, 4 for 5. He gets the RBI single at the end, but unfortunately, none of those hits really came in especially important moments. So I'm going to go Lance Lynn, number 1. I got to go Kiké Hernández, number 2. I know it's a 1 for 4, but he does make the catch. It's the biggest hit of the game. Bases loaded, 2 outs, 3-run base clearing double. So give me Kiké Hernández in the second spot, and then I'll go Freddie Freeman third. 4 hits. Can't ignore that. So Mookie Betts, honorable mention, but I've got Lance Lynn, Kiké Hernández, and Freddie Freeman in the 3 spot. What about you for 2 and 3?
Yeah, I'll go Freddie, Kiké, Lance Lynn. That Kiké swing was something. That was cool. That thing was laced. So yeah, that was good stuff. Good energy there. That was kind of his moment. Other than the ovations he's constantly getting from the fans, and I think that people should continuously do that because it's just great to have him back. See him on second base there. I bet he felt that, and he's here. No, I'm happy about it.
Yeah, look, baseball's a mental game, and so for a guy like Hernandez, he obviously has struggled mightily over the course of the season. But I bet for him to be in a new place, a lot of these guys, you have to have a degree of confidence to have gotten as to where they have. And so a lot of them have to believe that like the deck has just been stacked against them and like, oh, well, I just need one hit and I'm going to be back. I'm going to be ready to go. So you imagine a guy like Kiké comes back to LA and says, hey, this is a place I've had success. This is a jersey I've worn before and been comfortable, had the best years of my life here. And then he comes in and says, I'm going to turn it around. All I needed was a change of scenery. This is it. Then he comes to the Dodgers, has made a couple nice plays on defense, hasn't really done a whole lot offensively. But then for him, 106 miles an hour, he got all of that baseball on a rope to left center field. There's got to be something mental that happens when it says, hey, I've got this. Like, I'm back. I'm the old Kiké Hernandez. Forget the 200 batting average or whatever I came over with from Boston, the negative WAR player. I'm the guy that the Dodgers wanted to keep, that Boston paid millions of dollars to get. So I'm just curious to see if that does really carry over from the mental side. I'm not saying that fixes all of his problems, but believing in yourself is a huge portion of the baseball equation, I think. And so I hope that after a night like tonight, he's got that confidence and a little more optimism in his approach.
Yeah, I agree. So Kiké's had that, people talk about that clutch gene, and when the moment calls for it, you step up. But to your point, this is a very different roster from when he was here. A lot of the guys aren't there. He just left, Justin Turner was there with him, Kenley, Verdugo, they were all in Boston. And now he's here with this is a new, Dodgers roster. A lot of veterans here, but Mookie Betts, I don't think he get a chance to play. He didn't get a chance to play with Freddie. So first time playing with Freddie. So it's a completely different element for him. Same area, same thing, same fans, same uniform, different number. But he needed that moment. I think it was, that swing right there, whether it sets him off in a way mentally or, in the stat sheet, it was such a good spot for him. And he had another moment later in the thing. And that kind of was, what people might expect in a righty matchup of him. But when he has that swing, it's not going to be something that you won't expect because he's done it before in big spots, and we'll need Kiké because he's had that pedigree. He's, his 2021 postseason was magical. If you have 10 minutes, guys, just hop on YouTube, pull up his 2021 postseason highlights. And that's some of the most special Kiké Hernandez tape you're going to ever watch when he was with the Red Sox. And that's exactly what I did when they made that trade. And for me, seeing that joy when he stepped on second base, looked at the dugout, that's as good as it's going to get. And that's why we watch.
Yeah. No, it was great to see that. It was funny because this is going to be a throwback to you, and this probably just shows like sort of what a psychopath I am. Yeah. But when I saw number 8 up there, and I was thinking like, man, Kiké Hernandez offensively, what do we got? One of my just obscure favorite Dodgers ever wore number 8. You have any guesses here, Scott? I'll let some people in the chat. I'm thinking of an obscure pinch hitter type guy that you feel good in a big spot wearing number 8. You got any guesses for me?
Oh God, who you got?
I hope I'm remembering right. I'm trying to figure out. Oh, here we go. Oh yeah. 2004 to 2007. Some other number 8s, by the way. What's that?
I'll know it when you say it.
Okay, so some other number 8s I'm not talking about. McKinstry has worn 8. Machado has worn 8. Shane Victorino, one of my least favorite Dodgers of all time. That's another story. Wore number 8. Grudzielanek, number 8. We're not talking about him, though. None of those guys. Let's see. Anybody in the chat? Nobody in the chat wants to take a guess here. My guy, Olmedo Signs. Just a professional hitter. Just a professional hitter. I'm thinking, can we get Olmedo up there? However old that guy is. 44. He's probably still cranking out singles in his sleep. So that's what I thought of when I saw number 8. But hey, Kiké Hernandez, base clearing double. I'm not sure Olmedo Signs makes it. I'm not sure it makes it to second base there. Signs might not. He might have got thrown out as Outman is crossing home plate. But yes, the killer tomato, as TQT and BMR point out. Absolute legend. So there you go. Dodgers number 8.
I remember being at a game where he had a big swing when I was a kid. Yeah.
Lots of them. Yeah. There's a baseball reference. I love that
he was
you
the
can
guy.
look up guys who have worn numbers. But yeah, we got Kiké in 2023. McKinstry, the last guy to wear that jersey, funny enough. So hopefully a little more successful. And Machado, as somebody's pointing out as well. So some of the least popular Dodgers have worn number 8, unfortunately, but not Olmedo Signs or Kiké Hernandez. So there we go. Let's do this. Let's talk a little trade deadline and then we'll get to some questions from some folks. Scott, we know the story of today was almost. The Dodgers almost doing lots of things. They almost got Verlander, reportedly. They almost got Cease, reportedly. They engaged on Keller, reportedly. They engaged on Paxton, reportedly. They almost had a deal for Eduardo Rodriguez. That was the headliner for the Dodgers. He vetoes that trade. Andrew Friedman talking today before the game and basically saying, like, hey, we talked to the team. We talked to the agent. We have guys in the clubhouse who know him, who talked to him. And we were led to believe that this was going to be a done deal, nothing to worry about. And then it wasn't. And here we are. The Dodgers end up not making any significant moves today. They had Ryan Yarbrough, but I'll repeat, they did not make any significant moves today. They shipped a lot of guys out, some guys who had already been DFA'd, like Justin Brule and Phil Bickford. But overall, hard not to be incredibly disappointed. Daniel and I were doing a 90-minute live show, and the fact that we found stuff to talk about for 90 minutes when the end result of today was Ryan Yarbrough, which happened like 70 minutes into our show, is pretty remarkable. But give me your overall trade deadline thoughts. Ironically enough, on a night when you and I just gave player number 1 and player number 2 awards. Well, I guess I gave number 1 and number 2 of the game awards to two guys who are new to the Dodgers in the last week. So give me your thoughts, big picture.
I really would have liked to see them get, an impact arm at the front end of the rotation. And that's what Eduardo Rodriguez was supposed to be. So it wasn't talked about a lot. I know we had our own conversations about it, and it was kind of the thing that we all, people dropped the ball on and kind of swept under the rug, that because the trade didn't happen, it's like it, and it was never even a thing. Friedman had a deal in place. By all accounts, it was, set to go through. All it needed was his approval. Rodriguez's approval, and it didn't happen. So they tried to do that, and try doesn't really work for a lot of people. And if that's the case, then you instantly panic and overpay. That's where probably that last minute check-in came from. And that's why you saw in the last 10-15 minutes the Cease rumors kind of kicked up, and we saw some interest. But that's a hard thing to work out in such a short period of time. So because I'm sure they worked on the Rodriguez deal for a bit, and that's not a small contract. That's a multi-year thing if he opts in. So, Rodriguez has an opt-out after, I believe, this year. So it would have been a rental for sure. And, he would have been their guy at the front end. He's been solid for a few years. And he was supposed to be it. I would have loved to see a front end, but Verlander wanted to go back to Houston. They paid up in their prospect capital right at the top end. Cohen's paying for prospects, and that's a tough thing to beat. And JV wanted to go to Houston. Reliever-wise, I think the Dodgers like where they're at. It would have been nice, but we saw what the Padres just gave up for Scott Barlow. That would have been a move that if they didn't get a starter, I don't know if I want to make that, because everybody wants what the Dodgers have. A bat, it just, things didn't work out. Other teams kind of overpaid for what they did. Like even the Brewers, even, Mark Canha would have been cool, but he's still owed a little bit and has the opt-out after the buyout after the year. So it's all about, allocating your resources. There's things I would have liked to get done, but I'm not torn apart. I'm just upset that the Rodriguez deal didn't go through, because if there was anything, that would have been it. That would have, filled a big hole for them. They needed a front end guy. That's why Lance Lynn being good, it's imperative that they figure it out with him. Yeah,
I think if the Rodriguez deal gets done, I go from a D+ overall on this trade deadline to somewhere in the B range, because I think, Eduardo Rodriguez, not the sexiest name in the world, but I think it solves the biggest need that you have. It plugs the largest hole that you have. And given who else was available, it's hard to complain. And so it's hard for me because I go back and forth. I'll say this, Eduardo Rodriguez, the decision not to come to Los Angeles for family reasons is what the reports have said. His family's on the East Coast in Florida, apparently. On one hand, I want to point out that the plane flight from Detroit to Florida is probably not all that different in length than the plane flight from LAX to Florida, just a guess here. But look, I'm not here to sit and judge. If a guy has a personal decision for why he wants to say no to that, so be it. I don't understand it, but I don't need to understand it. It's not my decision. Yeah. The thing that I think is frustrating to me is, and I'm believing Andrew Friedman here, which some people might say I shouldn't, but it's the idea that the Dodgers were led to believe that this was going to work out. So I don't know if I should be mad at the Tigers. It seems like maybe Eduardo Rodriguez changed his mind. Like if he's telling Mookie Betts and JD Martinez and some of the guys he's been teammates with, Kiké Hernández, like, hey, yeah, I'm good. Like, let's do it. And then at the end of the day, vetoes it. Like, I don't know who the frustration belongs pointed at. Should Andrew Friedman have known more? He says, hey, we did our due diligence and we were led to believe he was going to say yes. Should I be mad at Rodriguez for changing his mind? Should I be mad at the Tigers or the agent for maybe being naive to what their person was actually going to do? But I think that's the frustrating part, is that the Dodgers knew they had a need, and reportedly everyone agrees they had a deal agreed to acquire Rodriguez. And now instead Rodriguez is happy and literally everybody else is bummed out. Tigers are bummed out. Tigers fans are bummed out because they're going to lose this guy for nothing. They can't even extend him a qualifying offer if he does in fact opt out, which based on the season he's having, he absolutely should. He'll get more money. Dodger fans are bummed out because we're left holding the bag with nothing in it. So that's the weird part for me on the Rodriguez one. I'm with you. The bullpen, I'm fine with them not addressing it. The lineup, I'm fine with them not adding more than Kiké Hernández and Ahmed Rosario. I think they've got enough pieces offensively. That isn't going to be the reason they lose. But I think it's just the Rodriguez one that rubs me the wrong way. We did get a super chat here, so let me throw this up from Saki Bomb, which I think is a good question. He said, with more teams having a chance to make the playoffs, do you think the high prospect cost of players is just the evolution of the league? Because more teams are incentivized to be buyers, because more teams have a chance to make the playoffs, there are less sellers, therefore prices go through the roof. I think you're onto something here. Saki Bomb would be my answer. Scott?
Yeah, no, like I know BR Walkoff put that thing up on Twitter, and I quote, it was like, who's the winner of the deadline? And I quote tweeted it and put, the third playoff team, because it certainly did not help out teams that were kind of, looking to add you. That's why you didn't see the Braves really do, much, anything substantial. They could have used a starter. They didn't go for it. So yeah, the price of prospects now is going to be high just because teams don't have to sell. They don't necessarily have to do it. They could just sit where they are. There's not going to be so many teams just dumping everything. Even saw the Mets, like the Mets can compete next year. They just shaved off the top end guys that were making a ton and were able to recoup great prospects for it. So you can still sell pieces and compete just because of that last wild card slot. Like there's going to be so much parity around the league. So I do think that the high prospect cost is just probably what it'll be now, because the rookies that impact the game, it might take, maybe people are realizing, or teams are realizing that it's taking, a great deal, that it is kind of a crapshoot, and that's just how it is. So you need to get more quality and quantity if you want proven commodities probably in this league. And that's probably where we're heading. And it's a trend that'll catch up, just like the way the game's, beginning to get played now. Fast, speed, and there's going to be a lot of changes. So it's going to change. Yeah.
I probably shouldn't be trying to give an economics lesson here at 10:40 p.m. after already having been on live shows for like 2.5 hours so far today. But that's what it is. It's supply and demand. Like, the example that comes to my mind is, yes, $1 is worth 100 cents today, and it was worth 100 cents 10 years ago. But $1 may have bought you a Snickers bar 10 years ago. It ain't buying you a Snickers bar today. And so the value of $1 has not changed. The value of everything else has. And so with prospects, you might look at a trade like Emmett Sheehan for Justin Verlander and say that's a ripoff because of all the money Verlander's owed in the years and blah, blah, blah. And I'm ignoring the fact that the Mets ended up giving money for this example. But right now, Justin Verlander might be worth Emmett Sheehan, and you can't really complain. Like, you can hold on to Sheehan if you want to and extract the value of having a young guy for 6 or 7 years, cost controlled, and taking the risk about whether or not he ever pans out. But at the end of the day, the Justin Verlanders of the world cost the Emmett Sheehans of the world in 2023, and it's probably not going to change in 24 or 25. The teams that are sellers probably don't have good players. That's why they are bad. So therefore, there are going to be less good players available. You make a good point. It's possible some of those middle-ish teams end up selling off players while also trying to make a run at the same time. There were a handful of teams, like I know the Marlins were on kind of the both sides of a couple trades. So today, the Cubs were rumored to be like in the mix while also potentially selling, although they didn't end up selling Stroman or Bellinger, obviously, as they've won a bunch of games in a row. But this is a long way of saying, Saki Bomb, I totally agree. I think this is the product of the system that Major League Baseball has created. And I mean, the last thing I would ask you, Scott, is do you like the system? Like, given what it has done, I don't like adding the playoff team from the perspective of equity as far as a year. Like, I don't think playing 162 games and being able to be eliminated that quickly is good for the game. But at the same time, like, it's hard to look at a day like today and say, isn't baseball better off because there are, 22 fan bases that think their team has a chance at the playoffs, when in a normal year that number is like 14. Like, that feels like a good thing, even if I don't like the actual playoff implications.
It definitely does, in the old format before this year, it definitely did shave off like a slab of teams. I'm not done with the trade stuff yet. I've got a lot of thoughts I want to hammer on that. But it definitely, like, just like you said, to your point, a lot of fan bases now, a lot of teams feel like they're in the hunt. So there might be a lot less movement, which is why, like, if this ties right into it, that if teams don't want to, trade from their depth, that if they're just like this market, there wasn't a lot out there because teams weren't willing to give up players so easily, because who knows, they might be in the hunt, or it's not as difficult for them to get in a position to compete. Just like the Cubs were on the cusp of, everybody's like, the Cubs are going to sell. Bellinger's gone. Stroman's gone. Like, they might explore like a complete, sell off for a bunch. And now they're buying, like, they're in it. Like, they're playing as well as any team in the league at the moment. So it can happen fast, and momentum swings are a thing. And now, because of that, those 3 wild card teams, you're going to see them battling it out. And that's where a lot of the action is going to be at. And with the new schedule format, everyone plays everyone. So trends are going to change. Like, you can't beat up on bad divisions anymore. Like, at the AL Central be a mess this year. That would be a joke. If old scheduling format, I don't know who would separate themselves there, but it'd be just, with the new schedule, with the new extra wild card, it's going to be different. We might have to gear up for some pretty dull trade deadlines if the bad teams aren't bad enough where they're going to sell. So we might not see, top names, being put on the chopping block.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what I would say is I thought the trade deadline overall was good. It was bad for us as Dodgers fans, but Max Scherzer was traded, Justin Verlander was traded. There were a number of big pieces that were moved. The Dodgers made a handful of moves a week before the trade deadline. Like, there was action. It just wasn't what we wanted. Let's get back to the trade deadline. I want to share this real quick. This is from Jack Harris in a report in the LA Times. I'll just read straight from the article. He screenshotted this on Twitter. He said, rival front office executives who were granted anonymity to speak freely said that generally it is on the team trading a player to ensure that the no trade clause is waived, i.e. this is on the Tigers. Quote, whose job is it to do it? End of the day, the team that has him, that gave him the right, one executive said. So for me, it was on the Tigers much more than the Dodgers. Still, this is not in the quote, but still some members of the Dodgers privately voiced surprise at the situation, wondering how the front office could get so far into talks on a trade, particularly for a player with so many connections in the Dodgers clubhouse, and not know that a no trade clause would ultimately kill the deal. So on one hand, hey, this is on the Tigers. It's your player. You're the one who gave him the no trade clause. You should understand what his thinking is, right? If he was, hey, I don't want to play on the West Coast, and that was how he decided on the teams that were on his no trade clause, then how do you not get that out in front? Because again, the Tigers are hurt by this as much, you could argue, maybe even more than the Dodgers are. But go wherever you want to on the trade deadline stuff. I just saw that from Jack Harris of the LA Times and thought it was interesting.
Man, how ridiculous. Oh my gosh.
What a bizarre situation just in general. I mean, like, I have a terrible memory, so I hate saying I can't remember when, but this feels like I can't remember when this has ever happened before, a situation to have gotten to a point of we agreed to a deal. Like, it's not like, oh, hey, rumblings, Justin Verlander wants to go to Houston, only going to go to Houston. This is like they agreed to a trade, and then we're like, oh, by the way, never mind.
If they checked one more box that should have been done by the Tigers, then Eduardo Rodriguez would be a Dodger at this very moment.
Yeah.
That deal doesn't get as far down. So it would have just been, Eddie said no.
Yeah.
So the guys that were,
let me ask this in hindsight, knowing what we know now, what deal do you wish the Dodgers had made?
So this is where I get into this. So honestly, Justin Verlander.
Yeah.
That's, if that was that, honestly, that didn't happen. But is what it is. If he had his sights set on Houston, didn't want to come to LA, what I talked about, the prospect ceiling. If Friedman didn't want to go as high of getting rid of, trading Sheehan and that for Cohen to pay up that contract, then they just didn't go that far. And it is what it is. If they, everybody's got their price, and perhaps it was too much for the Dodgers in the commitment long term to Verlander where he's at in his career age. But that is the deal that I would have liked to see them make.
Yeah.
But Dylan Cease, Mitch Keller, those guys, like, you have to assume that the Dodgers know, like, fans, they want a name. It might be some team's ace, but Dylan Cease, I'm not going to say he's bad. I'm not going to say that they're not ace level guys, but these weren't like clear cut, number ones that have had years and years of elite production. Dylan Cease has had one, maybe two of, top end ace stuff. He's got it, but numbers haven't, proven that way. Dodgers, it might have been different, but the prices on both of them, considering they had 2 more years of arbitration, it was a lot. So those guys are tough to move, and we won't know the packages there, but both of those, it did not surprise me that those deals didn't happen. I think it was because I was getting, antsy. I was getting antsy that I wanted something to go on. It just didn't happen.
Look, and on the Verlander front, I was kind of the anti-Verlander guy, but I have to say, with the amount of money that ended up getting sent from the Mets to the team that was acquiring Verlander, and again, did the Dodgers ever have a chance with Verlander? Sort of, there seemed to be some rumblings that the answer is no, that he wanted to go to Houston, decided on that, had a no trade clause, so could have just said, hey, I'm going to not waive this to anybody except for Houston. So if you want to get anything for me and get my money off the books, here's your chance. That's possible. But I'm with you. I mean, when I saw the $54 million or whatever that they were sending with Verlander, if his 3rd-year option is picked up, that's crazy town. And I would have thought long and hard, I think, at that point about, do I give up Emmett Sheehan in that deal? I still would have pushed, like, can I get away with Gavin Stone and a bat, Andy Pages, something like that? But I'm with you. That deal gets more attractive in hindsight. Obviously, Rodriguez was available. I still think I would have preferred Keller or Cease, but this is where it comes in. Like, on days like today, you either are looking for a reason to hate the Dodgers front office and just be pissed off at them, or you sort of give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, those are the two buckets that you can fall into. I just tend Andrew Friedman. I know this isn't a popular take on August 1st, 2023. I think he's earned the benefit of the doubt with what he's done over the last 10 years, even if you don't love the last 6 to 9 months. So I'm just going to choose to believe that he was aggressive in trying to go and make deals to acquire players. I'm going to believe him when he says we had a deal for a starting pitcher that all of us would have been happy with if that was the trade that they had ended up making, and that it fell apart for reasons that weren't his fault. I'm going to choose to give him the benefit of the doubt on that. You can disagree with me. We're all speculating here. But I just think that they went after Cease. And my guess is the price that they heard back on Cease and on Keller was a price that all of us would have thrown up under our chairs if we had heard the price of what they were asking for. Hey, we want Cartaya, and we want Sheehan, and we want Pages. Like, whatever it was just a price that's, okay, these guys are fine players, but they're not freaking Cy Young Award winning perennial all-stars with years and years of team control left. And so I tend to believe that they were aggressive, that Rodriguez fell out from under them. Do I think they could have done a better job of going out and trying to find some sort of solution? Sure. That's why I'm not happy with the overall trade deadline, but I think they were aggressive enough. I just think that maybe they put all their eggs in the wrong basket at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it just keeps coming back to there just wasn't as, the talent out there and the class wasn't as strong as, the names wanted everyone to believe. So, it is what it is. It just keep coming back to, they had a deal in place. It didn't work out. Eduardo Rodriguez should be, would have been the Dodger that they brought in, would have been the help in a secondary option, knowing that Eddie is not on the market to perhaps even out the cost or, help level that a bit. That changed a lot. Yeah. So there just wasn't out there. And we're forgetting that, we acquired, Ryan Yarbrough, not the flashiest thing, but Clayton Kershaw will be back soon.
We're not forgetting that we acquired Ryan Yarbrough. We're remembering that we acquired him, and we're not saying anything about him.
Yeah. But Clayton Kershaw will be back soon, barring anything in any hiccups there. Pepio's been progressing. So there's reinforcements that aren't trades that are guys currently on the roster. It's just, we're not used to having so many holes to fill in that starting rotation. Usually it's depth on depth, quality depth, but now they're having to plug them. Hopefully guys figure out. And I can't wait for Kershaw.
Yeah. Look, and to your point, there are some
Yeah.
guys coming back. Kershaw is obviously the big one. Ryan Pepiot had his best rehab start of his stretch today, so that's encouraging there. Walker Buehler aiming for September 1st. Whether or not that's going to happen, could be some reinforcements. I mean, who knows with some of the back end bullpen guys, Daniel Hudson, Blake Trinan types, if you're ever going to see those guys. But maybe you got Michael Busch, who keeps smashing down in the minors. Your guy Miggy V has 3 home runs in his last 4 days, I believe. So there's some of these pieces down there that could help. And even when I look at the rotation, big picture, and by the way, if you've got any questions, throw those in the chat because we're going to get to those here in just a second. All caps question. Ederico did a great job there. All question caps, and then throw your question afterwards. That's helpful for us to just be able to search through and find those. But yeah, I just think that the Dodgers have options when it comes to the rotation. For example, it's like, how many guys do you trust? Who's the 3.5 man rotation? I've said all along, I think it's Kershaw 1. I think it's Julio 2. Now that's a big if because Julio hasn't been great, but it's hard for me to shake off what I've seen for the last few years because of a bad few months. So we've seen flashes of good from Julio. He threw a bullpen today. He apparently is going to be ready to start on Thursday. So I still have Julio too. And from there, now all I need is to find 1.5 starters out of a pretty big bucket of players. Is it Bobby Miller? Is it Lance Lynn? Is it Tony Gonsolin? Is it Emmett Sheehan? Is it Ryan Pepiot? I need one of those 5 guys to be somebody that I trust. And I'm not saying I feel great about any one individually of those 5 guys in that spot, but 2 or 3 months from now, what are the odds that one of them pops? I think not 0. I think a lot higher than 0, maybe 50-50. And then the next one is a bullpen game. Maybe it's Walker Buehler as an opener. So that's just an example of, like, I think the Dodgers, while they don't have maybe the highest end talent in the rotation, I think they've accumulated kind of enough dart throws, enough lottery tickets there, some of whom Julio, Gonsolin, Lance Lynn have proven that they can rise to that occasion and that they have a higher end ceiling than maybe the average pitcher does, that maybe they find a couple guys that they can trust. And that's what they're banking on. And all I'm saying is it's not likely, maybe, but it's not a 0% chance either. This team's going to win or lose based on their offense, not their pitching. The pitching just has to be good enough. You said that earlier. And I don't think I think it's 50-50 whether they can be. And maybe 50-50 sounds high to some people, but I think they have the pieces. They've just got to get a little bit lucky.
Yeah, that's going to come down to a lot of it. Will Bobby Miller figure it out?
Yeah.
He's got the stuff to make it happen. Julio, they need him to figure it out. He's in a huge, final stretch for him. This is going to make or break. And now he's dealing with, the finger issue. So he's at a pivotal point. They'll need him. Tony Gonsolin, I'm not out on, but for the time being, I really think there's a spot for him in the bullpen in shorter stints. Like, I feel that him and Sheehan might be in the same bucket there, that they might, like, Sheehan playing up out of the bullpen with that fastball will be a weapon. Whether they keep him up or not, he'll keep giving them innings. But
yeah,
that might be why they didn't attack the bullpen so much, because there's so many, just like you said, dart throws. They will need spots for these arms that their stuff has already shown that it can play up in the league in like samples that they like, that, they'll start grooming them into those roles down the stretch. So for as far as your 1, 2, 3, Dodgers will keep, for me, it's unfortunate. Just like I said, that Clayton Kershaw will be, dependent on once again to kind of carry the load. And then past that, you have a lot of grab bag, because you can't say you're okay with Lance Lynn, filling up the strike zone and playing for contact in the postseason, because the balls that are, with the Oakland A's that are outs, those might be, homers, and it's got to change. He's had, the experience to really be a guy, but he hasn't done that for a few years. So we'll see what the Dodgers can do with it. So he might be in that mix there, but Kershaw, I want to say Bobby Miller 2 and Julio 3, man. So past that, you can kind of go from there, but there will be a lot of guys transferring to the bullpen. It's just like you said, a lot of luck. And this team, we've been so confident in the past that trade deadline's kind of maybe a luxury thing, or maybe they need an extra arm in the bullpen, a specialist lefty. They have quite a few needs, but they weren't able to address them, every one of them in like a spectacular fashion. So it will be a lot of luck going down the stretch. So, man, this is a different spot. It's a different feeling from like a Dodgers fan standpoint. And I'm sure a lot of people watching and seeing this team feel the same way, that they're confident, they're in first place, but they know that if things kind of slip, it can be a slippery slope there.
Yeah. Yeah. One note on Lance Lynn, because I do think this gets forgotten. The last 4 seasons, he's a 3.4 ERA guy with a 3.48 FIP, excuse me. So 10 strikeouts per 9. Like the Lance Lynn, we're not 5 years removed from Lance Lynn being a very good pitcher. So worth keeping in mind. Ederico, I threw your question up because we were kind of answering it indirectly with the pitching trades we got. Where does this put Michael Grove and Tony Gonsolin? Grove, I think it clearly puts in the bullpen once Clayton Kershaw is back. He's like the one of these young pitchers they've actually tried out of the bullpen before and he actually looked good there. So I think Grove goes to the bullpen. I think Gonsolin is going to stick around in the rotation. He's going to get a few more tries. Maybe, I wouldn't be shocked if he gets like a Phantom IL stint at some point to maybe just reset the mind, let Yarbrough take 1 or 2, chances through the rotation and see what happens. But I think ultimately Grove goes to the bullpen. And I still think, for me, Gonsolin is going to be one of those starters come postseason time, but I understand the people that are skeptical of that. Let's get to some more of these questions here. Lewis wants to know, there can still be trades via waivers, right? The answer is no, not anymore. That was a change that was made a couple of years ago. So the famous Adrian Gonzalez trade where the Dodgers absorbed $1 billion in salary cannot happen. BMR wants to know, any word on the return for Eduardo Rodriguez? The answer to that one is no. I'm curious personally, but I'm probably grateful organizationally that the Dodger prospects who would have been sent out to Detroit don't know that their team was about to trade them. That's probably a good thing. What would you have been comfortable giving up for Eduardo Rodriguez? I said I wouldn't give up Sheehan for a rental. That was kind of the line that I would have drawn. So it would have been a package of prospects from Gavin Stone, Ryan Pepio. That sort of tier probably would have been the best pitcher I would have given up. Michael Busch would have been available, but that would have been for me. Would you have given up Sheehan for Eduardo Rodriguez, Scott?
No, not for a rental. No, if the Dodgers were willing to do that for Justin Verlander, then I'm not willing to do that for Eduardo Rodriguez. It probably would have been from the mid tier, considering how highly regarded the Dodgers prospects are. It would have been from like, oh my goodness, yeah, like
I think the top 4 guys in my estimation, and I guess if you want to include Bob, maybe it's a top 3 because Bobby Miller technically doesn't count, but Cartaya, Rushing, and Sheehan would have been the 3 guys that would have been off limits for me. Maybe a Nick Frasso would have been off limits as well. But
still perplexed what they're going to do with Michael Busch.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Hopefully the DH when JD goes on the IL here pretty soon. TQT wants to know, is it wrong to question a lineup where Ahmed Rosario is your cleanup hitter? I'll say this, the guy mashes lefties. He hits 300 against them for his career. So against lefties, I don't think it's the worst idea in the history of the world. They want to keep everybody else in their normal spot. So it's easier to just plug a guy into where JD hit rather than, move Freddie to 4 and Rosario at 2 or whatever. So that's one piece. I think the second piece of this question, Scott, deserves a little bit of time, and I'm glad that it was brought up. Will Smith tonight, 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts and swinging and missing through fastballs in the zone, looking completely lost, staring at strike threes, awful looking swings on one of his strikeouts. It's been going on before he dinged up his elbow last week, so we can't really say, oh, well, he's coming off of that. I don't know what's going on with Will Smith, but he definitely is in a very bizarre funk and not one that we've seen him in before.
Yeah, no, I texted you immediately. I was like, something's going on. Like, he doesn't look himself. I can't really speak to it. It's just that I remember talking to you that there was a game, I think he had like 3 hits, and he was kind of my player of the game because we hadn't seen a game like that from him in quite some time. So it's upsetting that was a kind of a blip on the radar for, where he's struggling at currently. But tonight was a rough game from him. Just like you said, swinging, 4 strikeouts, but he just looks gassed.
Yeah.
0
for 11, the last 3 starts that he's had. And that I guess 4 if you include the hit by pitch game where he had just 1 at bat, but 0 for 11 6 strikeouts over that stretch. Before that, 2 for 5, 0 for 5, 1 for 4, 1 for 5. So, I mean, you could go back a little bit further, and he's 4 for 19 prior to that. So, you add all that up. He's basically 4 for his last 30 dating back to that Texas trip. So a rough stretch from Will Smith. And look, they don't have any other options there. Like, it's not like they can just rest him for a few days because Austin Barnes is dreadful. So unless they're planning on calling up Hunter Fiducia and giving themselves at least a shot offensively at the backup catcher position, it feels like it's just going to be Will Smith trying to figure this one out on the fly, right? Like, we're not asking for Austin Barnes to get a couple days here, are we?
Yeah, no, I really do think that he'll figure it out. He's a professional hitter. He's in the 3-hole for a reason. He's been as consistent as anyone, not named Freddie Freeman. So I really bank on Will Smith. He's been good. I think he'll figure it out. Not too worried. It's just a tough game, considering that, a lefty, against the A's, good matchup. He has 4 strikeouts, so that's just tough. He'll bounce back. He'll figure it out. But to the Ahmed Rosario thing, I think that, keeping Max Muncy out of the top of the lineup when there's a left-hander on the mound is a good thing. Ahmed Rosario's splits against lefties, with JD Martinez out, I'm okay putting him up there.
Yeah.
Whether it's not the cleanup spot, it's okay keeping him in the top half. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. A couple of quick questions here we'll rattle off. The Darkness wants to know, with Friedman not making a big splash, do you think there was any hesitation because of Ohtani's impending free agency? A lot of the guys they were linked to were expiring guys, who were rentals. So that wouldn't have affected anything. The Verlander one was the only one that felt like it was really going to have a change because he's the only guy that would have come with money. Even like the guys who had team control, it would have been cheap. So I can't imagine that the Dodgers were really thinking about any of these deals. Obviously, they're always thinking about next year and 3 years down the line and their payroll tables and all that kind of stuff. But it didn't feel like any of the names they were linked to would really have an impact on the Ohtani sweepstakes.
I agree. I don't think anything will stop the Dodgers, no matter what it is, from being in heavily on Shohei Ohtani.
I mean, maybe Arenado. Like, Arenado would be the only one because that's a lot of money over a lot of years. But, I mean, that one got squashed early on. Saki Bomb wants to know, with Michael Busch not being moved, is there any way you guys see him being part of the stretch? I actually think if JD Martinez goes on the injured list, there's a real chance, because I think if Busch comes up and gets, 10 to 14 straight days of real reps as the designated hitter, which would be my hope because he's a better option at DH than Chris Taylor, who played DH tonight. I really think there's a chance that he could get some things going. And if he did get some things going, I think come postseason time, once, hey, we want this guy getting every day at bats, stops being a thing, I really think he could challenge for an off the bench bat as an upgrade over some of the other options there. So I don't know exactly how that plays out, but like a guy like Chris Taylor, if Chris Taylor is struggling mightily, I don't think you need Taylor, Kiké Hernández, and Ahmed Rosario all on the roster at the same time. I think if Michael Busch comes up and hits, he could challenge one of those guys for just a bench spot, sort of the never going to play, but break glass in case of emergency type of thing. So that's my view. I don't know if you want to add anything there, Scott.
No, he's raking in AAA. So same thing that we talked about with James Outman before the year, that if you're a guy on the hot streak like that, I know it'd be great, but the Dodgers really don't like bringing up young guys and just having them sit on the bench. It's just not something they do. They don't like calling up top prospects if they're not that aren't pitchers, and just keeping them on the bench. Like if it's Miguel Vargas, he was playing all the time. He was one of the guys, and with Michael Busch, he was up there playing on a spot duty, and it didn't look pretty. So if, just like you said, when he's up there, I want him to play. So if it's now's the time when JD hits IL, if they don't DH him and they just kind of want to flip-flop somebody there and someone who has okay split spurts, but verse both sides, now will be the time. If somebody can slide into that DH role, it might even be Will Smith, like who knows. So they need to find a spot for him. So
all right, let's get to some rapid fire questions here. Eric wants to know, how about a Mitch White reunion? Yes or no? You interested in Mitch White? Got DFA'd by the Blue Jays?
Nope. Yeah, I think they have enough. I'm going to use Syndergaard's thing. I got too many cooks in the kitchen.
They got better options. Michael Grove is a better option than Mitch White. That might not be a popular take today, but at least he's getting swing and miss. Abe, what team do you not want the Dodgers to face in the playoffs? Easy one for me. Well, I shouldn't say easy. I'll let you answer this first.
Me first? Padres. I don't want to deal with them.
Yeah, I was going to say Padres or Giants. I was going to say Giants just because they have a better chance of making the playoffs. Those losses hurt more. If I'm just talking about winning, the Braves are really, really good.
Yes.
So there you go. All right. I know there's a bunch more questions in here. I'm sorry we're not going to get to them. Scott likes food questions, so I'm going to end with one food question. And I'll let you choose here a little bit. I'm a big dipping sauces guy, Scott. So whether we're talking French fries, whether we're talking chicken tenders, you can clarify what you want to go for here. But give me Scott Geirman's like top 3 dipping sauces.
Why are we doing honey mustard?
Okay.
Anything but buttermilk ranch. That sucks. Barbecue's cool. And sweet spicy sriracha from Chick-fil-A.
Okay. There you go.
There we go.
Sweet and spicy.
Right.
Look at that. That's okay. So honey mustard. What was your second one? Barbecue and
Yep.
sweet and spicy sriracha. Great. All right. I'm going ranch, number 1. I'm a big fan of just like fry sauce or like In-N-Out spread. That's a number 2 option for me. And if we're doing chicken tenders, I'll throw Chick-fil-A sauce in there because that's great. Although Polynesian, also sneaky, a very good sauce. So there you go. We got a food question out of Scott. Hey, everybody, we appreciate you joining us here. DodgerHeads presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. Again, thank you. We've had a ton of interaction and feedback over the past week, so we greatly appreciate it. If you're new here, please subscribe, ring the notification bell. If you're listening to this via podcast, please subscribe, rate, review the DodgerHeads podcast. It's available on Apple, Spotify, or Google. If you're watching this and say, hey, I'd like to be able to engage with this show after the fact on my drive to work or whatever, you can find us there. You can find Scott at Scott Geirman. You can find me at Jeff Spiegel on Twitter, at DodgerBlue1958 on social media, everywhere. We appreciate you joining us. Enjoy the rest of your night. Dodgers win 7-3 over the Oakland A's. Lance Lynn with the big win for the Dodgers. As always, enjoy your night and go Dodgers.